The breach, Commander Vork's facial membranes tightened as he stared at the holographic display. The pulsing red dot shouldn't exist. Not here, not this deep in Raxthalian space, and certainly not approaching the Imperial core. His four-fingered hand trembled slightly as he adjusted the scanner resolution. "Confirm that signature," he ordered, voice pitched lower than usual. The command center of Orbital Defense Station Proxima 9 hummed with increasing tension. Lieutenant Shell's voice cracked. "Confirmed, Commander. Unknown vessel, approximately 200 metrons in length. Configuration matches." She paused, triple emerald eyes widening. "Human design parameters." A collective hiss spread through the command center. Humans. Those fragile bipeds from the outer rim who had refused to bow to Imperial authority like every other sensible species in the galaxy. The same humans who had somehow fought the mighty Raxthalian fleets to a standstill during the border conflicts 3 cycles ago. "How did they penetrate our defense grid?" Vork demanded. "We have 15 overlapping barrier fields, quantum disruptors at every approach vector, and patrol cruisers throughout the sector." "Unknown, sir," replied the tactical officer. "Sensors show no breach in any defense layer. It's as if the vessel simply appeared within our perimeter." Vork's thick neck ridges flushed dark purple, a physiological response to stress that he couldn't control. "Impossible. Nothing can bypass a phase-locked quantum barrier. Nothing." But the evidence hovered before him, rotating slowly in 3 dimensions. A sleek human vessel, designation unknown, propulsion system unrecognizable, now only 30 million metrons from the Imperial core, the sacred home system of the Raxthalian Empire, never violated by any foreign power in 12,000 years of recorded history. "Alert the Imperial Guard. Activate all defense platforms. Deploy the home fleet," Vork ordered, his words precise despite his racing heart. "Open a direct channel to the High Council." Within moments, the elongated face of High Counselor Zex Calder appeared on the main screen, the ceremonial gold of his faceplates gleaming under chamber lights. "Commander, explain this interruption during the Feast of Ascension," the High Counselor demanded. "My deepest apologies, Exalted One." Vork responded with a formal bow of his head. "A human vessel has somehow penetrated all outer defenses and approaches the core. Current trajectory suggests Raxthal Prime as its destination." The High Counselor's expression shifted from annoyance to disbelief. "Verify your systems, Commander. What you suggest is tech. Already verified, Exalted One." Vork interrupted, a breach of protocol so severe he might face demotion, but time was critical. "The vessel continues its approach. Our interceptors have moved to engage, but the human ship is evading in ways our tactical systems cannot predict." The council chamber erupted in background voices. Vork could see other council members abandoning their ceremonial positions to cluster around the communication terminal. Senior military advisor Krax pushed his way forward, his scared face filling half the screen. "Have you attempted communication?" Krax demanded. "Yes, General. On all frequencies, using all known human linguistic patterns. They are receiving but not responding." The approaching vessel suddenly changed course, accelerating at rates that defied conventional propulsion physics. Alarms blared throughout the command center. "They've altered vector," Lieutenant Shell announced. "New trajectory places them on direct approach to the Imperial Palace itself." Even the High Counselor's disciplined features couldn't hide his shock. The Imperial Palace on Raxthal Prime wasn't merely the seat of government. It was the heart of Raxthalian civilization, home to the Eternal Emperor and the sacred vaults containing 12 millennia of Imperial history. "Destroy that vessel immediately," ordered General Krax. "All weapons free. Authorization code Crimson Talon 7. Vork nodded grimly. "Weapons platforms engaging now." The defense grid came alive, hundreds of energy weapons converging on the human ship. Particle beams, quantum disruptors, and gravity lances, enough firepower to reduce a small moon to dust, all focused on a single target. And all missed. not through poor targeting or technical malfunction. Each weapon discharged perfectly. Each energy signature reached its proper coordinates. But the human vessel simply wasn't there when the weapons discharge, having moved microseconds before each attack with precision that suggested impossible foreknowledge. They're predicting our firing solutions before we execute them, the tactical officer exclaimed, voice rising with each word. This defies all combat algorithms in the database. The human vessel continued its approach, now passing the orbital ring of Raxful Prime. The finest warships of the home fleet moved to intercept, their sleek purple hulls gleaming in the light of the Imperial sun. That's when the communication system chimed with an incoming transmission. "They're hailing us," Lieutenant Shell announced, surprise evident in her voice. Vork glanced at the council members on the main screen, receiving a terse nod from the High Counselor. "On screen," he ordered. The face that appeared wasn't what Vork expected. Humans were diverse in appearance, but this male specimen looked remarkably ordinary. Tanned skin, short dark hair streaked with gray, lines around the eyes suggesting middle age by their standards. He wore a simple gray uniform without insignia or rank indicators. "This is Captain Ethan Reeves of the Earth vessel Pathfinder," the human said in perfect high Raxdalian, without translation assistance. "I apologize for the unannounced arrival and for evading your defensive measures. I assure you our intentions are peaceful." "Peaceful?" General Crax snarled. "You penetrate our most secure space, approach our homeworld uninvited, and claim peaceful intent. Prepare to be destroyed, human." The captain's expression didn't change. "With respect, General Crax, if destruction was your capability today, it would have already occurred. I need to speak with Emperor Zaxt Talon immediately on a matter that concerns the survival of both our species." The audacity of the demand left even the High Counselor momentarily speechless. No foreign entity had direct audience with the Eternal Emperor. Such was simply not done. What matter could possibly warrant this unprecedented violation? The High Counselor finally asked. "The Void Harvesters have awakened," Captain Reeves said simply. Vork didn't recognize the term, but the effect on the council members was immediate and dramatic. The High Counselor physically recoiled. General Crax's face drained of color, the purple hue fading to a sickly gray. "That information is sealed under Imperial Edict ZT 1127, the High Counselor whispered. "How could you possibly?" "Because they've been detected in human space as well," the captain interrupted. 3 outer colonies already gone. We have 62 minutes before I must return with an answer, or my government will proceed with Operation Firebreak independently. I would prefer a coordinated response." Vork watched the silent communication pass between the council members, a mixture of fear, suspicion, and something he rarely saw in the Empire's leadership: uncertainty. "Dock at Imperial Base 7, the High Counselor finally said. "You will be met by an Imperial Guard detachment and escorted to a secure communication facility. The Emperor will decide whether to grant your request." "Thank you, High Counselor," Captain Reeves replied with a respectful nod. "Changing course now." As the transmission ended, Vork turned to his second-in-command. "What are these Void Harvesters?" he asked quietly. Lieutenant Shell shook her head. "I don't know, sir. The term isn't in any standard military database." "Commander Vork," the High Counselor said, his voice drawing Vork's attention back to the main screen. "You will personally oversee the human security detail. Nothing of what you have heard is to be repeated. Classification level: Omega Black." Vork's neck ridges stiffened in surprise. Omega Black was the highest security classification in the Empire, reserved for existential threats. "Understood, Exalted One," he replied automatically. As the command center rushed to follow the new orders, Vork's mind raced through possibilities. The border conflicts with humans had ended in an uneasy truce 3 cycles ago, neither side gaining significant advantage. Humans had proven surprisingly resilient and inventive in warfare, but their technology had been roughly comparable to Raxthalian standards. Nothing like what he had just witnessed. How had they made such advances in just 3 cycles? How had that vessel bypassed the most sophisticated defense grid in known space? And what threat could possibly unite 2 species that had been on the brink of interstellar war? As he prepared to meet this human captain, Vork couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy as he knew it was about to change forever. The Pathfinder glided into the massive docking bay with a precision that impressed even the Raxthalian flight controllers. Up close, the human vessel looked even stranger. Its hull composed of a material that seemed to shift and flow like liquid while maintaining rigid structure. No visible propulsion systems, weapons ports, or even standard communication arrays. It was as alien to conventional human design as it was to Raxthalian. When the docking ramp extended and Captain Reeves emerged, he was alone and unarmed. He walked with the confident gait of someone who felt no threat despite being surrounded by the elite guards of a formerly hostile empire. "Commander Vork," he said, extending his hand in the human greeting gesture. "Thank you for the escort. I understand this is unprecedented." Vork stared at the outstretched hand for a moment before carefully taking it in his larger, 4-fingered grasp. "That," he said, "would be an understatement, Captain. Follow me." As they walked through the gleaming corridors of the Imperial docking facility, surrounded by fully armed guards, Vork couldn't contain his curiosity. "Your ship's capabilities exceed all known parameters of human technology," he observed, "even accounting for expected advancement rates." Captain Reeves nodded. "The Pathfinder incorporates certain discoveries we made after the border conflicts. Necessity is a powerful motivator for innovation, and these void harvesters, they constitute such a necessity." The human's expression darkened. "They constitute an extinction-level threat, Commander, to all spacefaring life in this galactic sector." Before Vork could press further, they arrived at the secure communication facility. The doors slid open to reveal not merely a communication terminal, but the High Counselor himself, accompanied by General Krax and 3 other members of the Imperial Council. "The Emperor has agreed to hear your message, human," the High Counselor announced. "But first, you will explain exactly how your vessel penetrated our defenses and how you learned of matters sealed under Imperial edict." Captain Reeves straightened his posture, his gaze steady as he addressed the most powerful figures in the Raxthalian Empire. "With respect, the technical specifications of the Pathfinder are not mine to share. As for the Void Harvesters," he paused, choosing his words carefully. 3 human colonies went silent last month. When our investigation teams arrived, they found entire worlds stripped down to bedrock. All organic matter, all technology, all evidence of civilization, gone. Just like your colony on Proximal IV, 97 years ago. General Krax moved with surprising speed for his size, grabbing the human by his uniformed collar. "How do you know about Proximal IV?" he hissed. Captain Reeves remained calm. "The same way we know about the Imperial research vessel that first encountered the Harvesters. The same way we know about the sealed records of 17 other worlds throughout this sector's history that suffered identical fates. We found the pattern." "Impossible," the High Counselor whispered. "Those records are protected by quantum encryption. No foreign intelligence service cold." "We didn't hack your systems," Reeves interrupted. "We didn't need to. We found the pattern independently, then confirmed it when we discovered the remains of your research vessel adrift in deep space. Its data cores were damaged but partially recoverable." The High Counselor and General Krax exchanged alarmed glances. "The Seeker of Eternal Truth," the High Counselor said, "lost over 200 cycles ago." "Not lost," Reeves corrected. "Its crew sacrificed themselves to prevent the Harvesters from following them back to Raxthalian space. They almost succeeded." A large display activated on the wall, revealing the face of a being so ancient and regal that even Vork felt compelled to bow. The Eternal Emperor, Zax Talon, ruler of the Raxthalian Empire for over 300 cycles, enhanced by technology and genetic engineering to extend his reign across centuries. "Human." The Emperor's voice resonated with the weight of ages. You claim knowledge of an ancient enemy and breach our most secure defenses to deliver this warning. Speak plainly now. What do you propose? Captain Reeves stepped forward, his posture respectful but not subservient. Your Eminence, humanity, and the Raxthalian Empire stand at a crossroads. The Void Harvesters have returned in greater numbers, and neither of us can stop them alone. I've come to propose an alliance, and to offer the one weapon that might save us both. The revelation. Emperor Zax Talon's ancient eyes narrowed as he studied the human captain. For 300 cycles, he had guided the Raxthalian Empire through expansion, war, and uneasy peace with dozens of species. Yet never before had any alien stood before him with such audacity, or such alarming news. You claim to have a weapon against the Void Harvesters, the Emperor said, his voice carrying the harmonic resonance typical of elder Raxthalians. Explain. The room's atmosphere grew heavy with tension. Commander Vork noticed the slight shift in the Imperial Guard's posture, hands drifting closer to weapons, bodies angling toward the human visitor. Despite the ceremonial nature of their armor, these were elite killers who could end the human's life in seconds if ordered. Captain Reeves seemed oblivious to the danger as he activated a small device on his wrist. A holographic projection appeared in the center of the room, a three-dimensional model of what appeared to be a modified human vessel, but with impossible configurations that defied conventional engineering principles. Not a conventional weapon, Your Eminence, Reeves explained. The Void Harvesters exist partially outside normal spacetime. Conventional weapons, even your quantum disruptors, barely affect them. We are aware of the enemy's nature, General Krax interrupted sharply. The Empire has encountered them before. Yes, Reeves nodded and retreated each time, as did we when we first encountered them. But retreat is no longer an option. They're expanding exponentially. 17 worlds consumed in the past 90 days. At this rate, they'll reach both Earth and Raxthal Prime within 6 months. The hologram shifted, displaying a map of the galactic sector with pulsing red indicators spreading like a disease across star systems. What changed? The High Counselor asked. The historical records indicate the Harvesters have appeared periodically over millennia, but never in such numbers or with such purpose. Reeves hesitated for the first time since his arrival. We believe we may have accidentally awakened them. A ripple of murmurs spread through the Raxthalian officials. The Emperor remained silent, his ancient face unreadable. 3 years ago, during our war, Reeves continued. Border conflict. General Krax corrected immediately. Never declared a formal war. During our conflict, Reeves acknowledged with a diplomatic nod. A human research vessel, the Prometheus, was testing an experimental fold space drive near the Cygnus Void. The test created a ripple effect through subspace that appears to have disturbed something dormant within the void. The Emperor's eyes flashed with anger. You tampered with fold space mechanics without understanding the consequences. With respect, Your Eminence, Reeves replied, his tone carefully measured. Your own Imperial archives, the ones we recovered fragments of, indicate that Raxthalian scientists attempted similar experiments near the Perseus anomaly 700 cycles ago, with similar results. The Harvesters have been awakened before by various species. The difference this time is that we've developed a potential solution. The hologram changed again, displaying complex equations and energy patterns that Vork couldn't begin to comprehend. Even the scientific advisors present seemed bewildered by the theoretical physics being presented. The Pathfinder represents our prototype, Reeves explained. Its hull is composed of a metamaterial that exists simultaneously in normal space and fold space. This allows us to interact directly with the Harvesters on their own dimensional plane. Impossible, whispered one of the scientific advisors. The energy requirements alone would exceed the output of a standard fusion reactor by a factor of 10,000. Reeves completed the thought. Yes, that's why the Pathfinder is powered by something else. With those words, the atmosphere in the room changed. Commander Vork felt it immediately. a shift from skepticism and hostility to something approaching fear. What power source could possibly generate such energy? The High Counselor asked, though his tone suggested he already suspected the answer. Captain Reeves looked directly at the Emperor. We call it a controlled dimensional rift. I believe your people once called it the breath of creation. The Emperor rose suddenly from his seat, his elongated frame towering over everyone present. His voice, when it came, resonated with authority and barely contained rage. You have harnessed the fundamental force that separates dimensions. The same force that nearly destroyed the ancient Raxthalian homeworld 50,000 cycles ago. Similar, but with crucial differences, Reeves replied, remaining calm despite the Emperor's reaction. Our approach incorporates safeguards that your ancestors couldn't have developed with the technology of their time. We've contained the reaction within a temporal stasis field. The Emperor and his advisors engaged in rapid conversation in an ancient dialect of Raxthalian that the translation systems couldn't process. Vork watched the human captain carefully during this exchange. Reeves stood patiently, his posture relaxed but alert. Not the stance of someone delivering a deception. Finally, the Emperor addressed Reeves again. You breached our defenses to propose an alliance against the Harvesters. What exactly does this alliance entail? We have the technology to affect the Harvesters, but limited resources to deploy it widely, Reeves explained. The Raxthalian Empire has the industrial capacity we lack, plus strategic positions throughout the sector that would be vital for establishing the defensive perimeter. And in exchange for our cooperation, the High Counselor asked. Survival, Reeves said simply, and shared access to fold space technology that will revolutionize travel, communication, and defense for both our civilizations. General Crack stepped forward, his military mind already calculating. How do we know this isn't an elaborate ruse? Perhaps there are no Harvesters at all, and this is merely a ploy to gain access to Imperial resources and territory. Captain Reeves nodded, as if expecting the question. A reasonable concern. That's why I brought proof. He touched his wrist device again, and the hologram changed to display real-time sensor readings. The Pathfinder deployed remote probes before entering your space. This is a live feed from the Keldaris system, 20 light-years from here. The imagery showed a terrifying sight, a vast, shifting darkness that seemed to devour light itself, spreading across an inhabited planet. Where it touched, matter simply ceased to exist, converted to energy that the darkness absorbed. Billions of lives extinguished in minutes. The Keldaris system. Commander Vork exclaimed. That's an Imperial protectorate with 6 billion inhabitants. 5,900,000,000 as of this morning, Reeves corrected grimly. 0 now. The evacuation order came too late. The Emperor sank back into his seat, suddenly looking every cycle of his extended age. How long before they reach the core systems? At current expansion rates, 74 days, Reeves replied. Unless we act immediately. A heavy silence fell over the room. The Emperor's gaze moved from the horrific images to the human standing before him, a representative of a species that, until hours ago, had been considered an adversary. What do you need from us? The Emperor finally asked. Access to your fold space communication network to coordinate defense efforts. Permission to establish 5-dimensional anchor points at these strategic locations. The hologram shifted to show specific coordinates, and technicians familiar with quantum harmonic engineering to help modify your defense platforms. The Emperor conferred briefly with his advisors before turning back to Reeves. These terms are acceptable, with conditions. Imperial observers will monitor all activities. Any technology transfer will be strictly controlled. And, his voice hardened, if this is deception, Captain, know that the Empire's retribution will be absolute. Understood. Reeves nodded. Time is critical. I suggest we begin immediately. As the meeting dissolved into tactical discussions and preparation orders, Commander Vork found himself assigned as liaison to the human captain. Walking beside Reeves toward the technical briefing area, Vork finally asked the question that had been troubling him since the humans' arrival. Your ship bypassed our entire defense grid, technology we believed impenetrable. Yet you come offering alliance rather than conquest. Why? Reeves glanced at him, a small smile touching his lips. Because we've learned from history, Commander. Civilizations that focus on conquering each other inevitably fall to greater threats. The universe is vast and mostly hostile. Intelligence, whatever form it takes, is precious and rare. A philosophical answer, Vork observed, from a species known for pragmatism. Perhaps humans and Raxthalians have more in common than either would care to admit, Reeves suggested. Before Vork could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Emergency channels erupted with panicked reports. Void Harvester's signature detected in the proximal system. Multiple anomalies appearing near the outer defense perimeter. They're following us, Reeves said, his face grim. The Pathfinder's dimensional drive leaves a trace they can follow. I was hoping we'd have more time. You led them here. General Krax roared, storming toward them with guards in tow. Not intentionally, Reeves replied, his calm demeanor finally cracking. But yes, our presence likely accelerated their approach. The Pathfinder can generate a dimensional barrier, but we need to move quickly. What followed was a desperate race against extinction. The Pathfinder, now joined by the elite ships of the Imperial fleet, moved to establish defense positions around Raxthal Prime. Human scientists worked alongside Raxthalian engineers, modifying defense platforms with technology that seemed like magic even to the Empire's most brilliant minds. Commander Vork found himself on the bridge of the Pathfinder, witnessing firsthand the incredible capabilities of the human vessel. Its interior was as strange as its exterior, shifting configurations, interfaces that responded to thought as well as touch, and, at its heart, a pulsing core of energy that somehow existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Dimensional anchors deployed at all 5 coordinates, reported a human officer whose name Vork hadn't caught. Initiating harmonic resonance field, Reeves ordered from the command position. Raxthalian vessels confirm your status. The communication system echoed with the voices of Imperial commanders as the combined fleet prepared for humanity's desperate gambit. What exactly will this do? Vork asked, watching the energy readings climb on displays that shifted between Raxthalian and human notation systems. The Void Harvesters exist by converting matter to energy across dimensional boundaries, Reeves explained, his fingers dancing across controls. Our plan creates a resonance cascade that reverses that process, essentially forcing them to remain in a single dimension where conventional weapons become effective. The view screen showed the approaching horror, a writhing darkness punctuated by flashes of energy, consuming everything in its path. The outer planets of the Raxthalian system were already being devoured, converted to energy to feed the insatiable harvesters. Ready on my mark, Reeves announced to the combined fleet. Dimensional field activating in 3, 2, 1. Mark. The Pathfinder shuddered as incredible energies coursed through its systems. From each of the 5 anchor points, beams of impossible light shot forth, connecting in a vast pentagonal pattern around the approaching harvesters. Where the beams intersected, reality itself seemed to warp and twist. The Void Harvesters reacted immediately, their amorphous forms contorting as they attempted to shift between dimensions. But the human technology held them in place, forcing them to maintain physical form. All vessels, weapons free. General Krax's voice boomed over the command channel. Target the containment field. The combined firepower of the Imperial fleet and Earth's expeditionary force converged on the trapped harvesters. Quantum disruptors, gravitational lances, and weapons Vork had never seen before tore into the suddenly vulnerable enemy. The battle was brief but intense. The harvesters, trapped in physical form, fought back with tendrils of dark energy that sliced through several Imperial vessels. But confined by the dimensional field, they could no longer simply absorb attacks or shift away from danger. One by one, they were destroyed, each explosion releasing a pulse of energy that rippled across the dimensional barrier before dissipating. When the last harvester fell, a cheer erupted across the communication channels. Human and Raxthalian voices united in triumph and relief. Captain Reeves slumped in his command chair, exhaustion evident on his face. Dimensional field collapsing. Anchor point stable. We've won the first battle, Commander Vork. But the war is just beginning. The harvesters in this system are destroyed, Vork observed, but there are more throughout the sector. Many more, Reeves agreed, and they'll adapt to this strategy eventually. We'll need to keep developing new approaches, new technologies. He looked at the Raxthalian commander. Together, 3 days later, Commander Vork stood in the Imperial Palace's Grand Hall, watching as the Eternal Emperor and the human delegation, now expanded to include diplomatic and scientific representatives, signed the formal alliance treaty. The document was historic not merely for ending hostilities between humans and Raxthalians, but for its unprecedented scope of cooperation. A strange twist of fate, observed High Counselor Zex Kaldar, who had joined Vork at the ceremony. 3 cycles ago, we were preparing for total war with these humans. Now we stand as allies against a greater threat. Perhaps not so strange, Vork replied, watching as Captain Reeves exchanged ceremonial gestures with the Emperor. The humans have a saying, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." Pragmatic, the High Counselor noted with approval. Though I admit, I find their technology disturbing. To manipulate the fundamental forces of reality in such ways. Progress often appears as magic before it becomes science, Vork said, surprising himself with the philosophical turn. The humans took risks we would not, and discovered possibilities we had overlooked. The ceremony concluded with an announcement that sent murmurs through the assembled dignitaries. Joint Raxthalian Human Defense Forces would be established throughout the sector, combining the strengths of both civilizations to counter the harvester threat. As the gathering dissolved into smaller conversations, Captain Reeves approached Commander Vork with a data crystal in hand. "Your new assignment," Reeves explained, offering the crystal. "The Emperor and Earth Command have agreed. You'll command the first joint task force, the Vanguard Fleet." Vork accepted the crystal, surprise evident in his expression. "Why me?" "Because you asked why we came in peace when we could have come in war," Reeves said with a smile. "Because you understand that different perspectives create stronger solutions. And because I trust you." Trust, Vork repeated the unfamiliar concept. Not a traditional foundation for military cooperation in Raxthalian doctrine. "Maybe it's time for new doctrines," Reeves suggested. "The old ones led us to the brink of mutual destruction. The new ones might lead us to mutual salvation." As Commander Vork studied the mission parameters contained in the crystal, he realized the scope of what lay ahead. A unified fleet, with technology and tactics drawn from both civilizations, venturing into the darkness to hunt the void harvesters wherever they appeared. "It won't be easy," Reeves said, reading Vork's expression. "Our species have different approaches, different values, different ways of thinking." "Good," Vork replied with newfound conviction. "The harvesters have never faced that kind of unpredictability before. Perhaps that's exactly what we need." The Pathfinder departed Raxthalian space the following day, returning to Earth with news of the Alliance. But it would return soon, along with a fleet of similar vessels equipped with the dimensional technology that had proven so effective. Standing on the observation deck of Orbital Station Proxima 9, the same station where he had first detected the impossible human ship, Commander Vork watched the Pathfinder vanish in a flash of light that defied conventional physics. 3 weeks ago, he had been a loyal Imperial officer, secure in the knowledge that the Raxthalian Empire was the pinnacle of civilization in the known galaxy. Now he was preparing to command a joint fleet, implementing technologies that contradicted everything he had been taught about the fundamental laws of reality. Yet for all the uncertainty that lay ahead, Vork felt something he hadn't experienced in cycles: hope. Not the complacent assurance of Imperial might, but a genuine belief that together, these two vastly different species might accomplish the impossible. As the stars gleamed in the viewport, Vork reflected on the ancient Raxdalian proverb that suddenly seemed newly relevant. When the night is darkest, seek not solitude but companionship, for it is in the combining of lights that shadows are vanquished. The darkness between stars was vast and growing, but for the first time, it would face the combined brilliance of humanity and the Raxdalian Empire, former enemies united against extinction, writing a new chapter in galactic history. And Commander Vork would help author that story, one battle at a time.